Please, so you'll lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is to approve our agenda.
Move it. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, we get to have Mike Weiss sworn in and then begin being sworn at.
Official.
Raise your right hand, please. I, Mike Weiss,
I, Mike Weiss,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties of my said office of Brown County Commissioner.
all the duties of my said office of Brown County Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Again.
Sign it and I'll-
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Welcome back. Well, if New Zealand is half as nice as it looks in your pictures, you had a great time.
Yep, awesome.
All right, next we'll open the Brown County Commission meeting up to any public comment. Is there anyone here to speak to us on any topic that's not already on the agenda? Out there online or on the phone? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to second reading and adoption of ordinances 239 and 240.
Ordinance 239, an ordinance amending Title 4, Second Revision, Brown County Ordinance as amended to rezone certain described property, filed by Nicole Kemp, personal representative of the estate of Daniel C. Kemp, is hereby granted in Title 4, Second Revision, Brown County Ordinance to rezone from Chapter 4.06 Agriculture Preservation District to Chapter 4.07 Mini Ag District.
All right, is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 239? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Ordinance 240, an ordinance amending Title 4, Second Revision, Brown County Ordinances as amended to rezone certain described property, filed by Lucas and Mary Kihei and C.J. Lane, to rezone from Agriculture District Preservation to Mini Ag District.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 240? Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, Brown County 14 engine brake discussion. We've had a request from residents in the area of the intersection of Brown County 13 and Brown County 14 to add engine brake prohibition signs on the stretch of Brown County 14. There's already a sign on 13 as you're heading east. And is there anyone here to speak to this? Mr. Coughlin, is that why you're here?
Well, I'm here because I heard it was on the agenda, and I, of course, live at Ground Zero. And it is out of control. I don't know. I'm assuming it's an enforcement issue, but it is getting worse. It is not getting better. Commissioner Weiss indicated, I visited with him, and we do have the sign, and that just excites certain bull runners and other. I don't have an answer. I just want the commission to know that it is not being resolved. The majority of them are pretty good. I have to say that. But I do live right on Brown County 13. I've done cursory studies with noise dosimeters, and now I'm getting older and losing my hearing, so, you know, it isn't affecting me as much. However, it is a problem,
Sure.
major problem.
Sure. All right, I was thinking Highway Superintendent Dirk Rogers might be here. Dirk, are you out there online? I did visit with Dirk, and he has no objections to adding the engine brake signs going north and south as you're coming up to the intersection. And it sounds like that's another area in addition to 13 that we have a problem with. So adding the additional signs and possibly beefing up a little enforcement might help remedy that. I don't know to what extent our sheriff's office is, Dave, we're discussing the engine brake signs out. There's currently one on 13 as you're heading east, and we've had a request to also add a couple on 14 as you're coming from the south and the north to the intersection to eliminate or try and slow it down. We think that enforcement might be a problem. Is that maybe an area we could do a little bit better job of being there a little more frequently to try and slow it down a little?
To the best of our abilities, we can. Obviously, this time of year with the snow and rough road conditions, we're all over the place right now.
You bet.
On the average basis, when there's not the snow or the weather conditions, I don't see why we can't.
Okay.
And this is all by ordinance then for that area? Is that how that's gonna be set up for?
We just need to make a motion to approve the placing of the signs, and
Okay.
the highway department will go out and install the signs.
Okay.
And then we'll have that whole intersection covered.
When's that go into effect? Is that already into effect right now?
Well, there's already one on 13,
Okay, but not on 14?
not on 14.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely put an email out so that we cover that area a lot better.
Okay?
But I'm sure the Jake brakes are going like crazy right now.
Yep, yep. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Go ahead, Mike.
So with this ordinance, or changing, putting the sign, what are we trying to control? Like, what's our metric going forward? So we know next time. Are we trying to control the decibel level, or are we just trying to control trucks? I mean, what are we trying to do?
Just the noise that's created from using the Jake brakes. And I know we've had other requests in the past on South 281, on Brown County 10, going down towards Warner. Here's Dirk, so maybe he can shed a little more light. The placing of the question just came up. Go ahead, Mike, you can ask Dirk.
What's that?
You go ahead and ask him what you just asked me.
Well, I'm just wondering, when we place a sign, what are we trying to control? Just the trucks, or are we trying to control the decibel level out there?
Okay, we're talking about the...
Engine brakes on 14.
Morning, all.
Morning.
Good morning.
I don't know, okay? This didn't originate with me, and to be honest, I don't know a scenario where it would originate with me, okay? Because it's not something that I relate specifically to, you know what I mean? I honestly do not have an opinion, and I make a crappy politician or a good one, but I totally understand the truck drivers, especially the private, and I'm not discounting anybody bigger, but especially the private guys. But I don't have enough of an opinion on it. I understand, you know, but I don't know if you go back to who was there first, you know, was the subdivision there first, or were you promoting a truck bypass first? And so I don't know. I've never come up with good criteria to answer this question, if you understand. And you know how much, I don't like passing the buck, and I like to come in with recommendations, but this topic's just not one that I have enough feeling one way or the other. So I can't really answer your questions. I'm going completely off of my past experience with this topic. That's all I'm going off of here, and it's the noise. And, you know, we had a conversation, and we won't drag through the whole thing. I know how you feel about it, and I know that a truck isn't the only thing that makes noise, or a compression brake, or whatever your terminology you want to use, isn't the only thing out there that makes noise. So, you know, but I will say it's a common thing. This isn't an anomalous thing, and so, you know, I just don't have an opinion on it. Unless we're talking about doing it on the whole 3 miles, and then I'm gonna, you know, I missed the first part of this because the streets weren't plowed and I couldn't get here fast. But, so I don't know what the objective was. If we're talking about anything other than one controlling the 14 and 13 intersection, because we already have them on 13.
Right.
And I'm not gonna, you know, I can sit here and we know what the enforcement thing is. Our good friends at Westport, you know, we changed the speed limit 14 times, and at the end of the day, if somebody's not there, you know, so,
but I don't really have a problem with it. I don't know if am I answering a question here, or?
From your past experience, does the placement of a sign help cut down on the problem?
No. Honestly, it's kind of funny, right before I walked out of the highway shop, to come up here, and the people that were in the office, we actually had quite a heated debate on the topic. And I was
Who
kind of, well, I don't know, we'll see. But the comment was by one person that lives south of town in the range of where there's a sign on 281. She says, no, I hear them all the time. The other thing is that original email requested, I believe, signs on 13 and 14, and we've had them on 13 dating back to whenever the state was using it for detour, so 2 years probably we've had them up there. So those two things right there, if we had a sign there and they're still requesting that we put a sign there, it kind of tells me that the sign that we have there is not working. I don't know what else you do though. This, what we've done is you pass an ordinance and you put up signage, and then I don't know what else to do about it. What I was kind of rambling, of course, I'm not in favor of putting a sign at Fairgrounds Road extended there, or at the railroad tracks, or at 8th Avenue. Now, people make the argument, okay, what's the difference? At 8th Avenue, you have residential right there. They have the road closed to trucks in front of their place. I mean, you can't regulate that anymore from the trucking industry. Now, I understand that you're still gonna have them coming up to 14, but that I might argue about a little bit because it's adjacent to the industrial park. And chicken or the egg, was Evergreen subdivision there first, or was the industrial park there first? I don't know. Maybe one of you old timers knows, but,
Sure, now that
I'm not gonna ask Drew. What the hell?
Sure, now that Dennis is gone.
Go ahead.
Well, what I've experienced, I have a Jake brake in my truck, it's muffled with a single pipe. I can Jake brake and I can have my windows open, I don't know if there's a whole lot of difference. The Jake brake problem comes in when you got the guys that have the straight pipes with 14 feet of pipe hanging up there. Those are the ones where the Jake brake comes in and makes the terrible noise. Most farmers don't have 14-foot stacks with straight pipes on. If I go to the elevator and stuff, you'll see most guys have their basic semi with a muffler on, and they Jake brake. You can't hardly hear it, but the guys that have the straight pipes that are 14 feet tall, when they Jake brake, it bellers. So now you're distinguishing between this guy and that guy, and I don't know where you go with that one.
If you seriously want to regulate it, you'd have some way to measure it, and some sort of enforcement and stuff. You might as well put the sign up in yellow. This is a suggestion. Please don't do that.
And I have seen some, you gotta boy, it's clumsy. It's like having the automated cameras taking speeding tick. I mean,
Which are everywhere now.
And you could, I have seen a thing with this topic where they have decibel meters in a location, but, I mean, we have about 10 of these signs up right now in the whole county.
Yeah, it's a please don't do that here, and some will and some won't.
So, I would love to be able to come in and give you all this great data on why I feel the decision should be this way or this way, but it's just not something that I have a strong enough feeling for, unless you're talking about doing it on all 3 miles, and then that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, Commissioner Weiss, go ahead.
You ever had one of your folks actually write a ticket for it?
Not my time. Not that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just hard, I live up in the north side, and coming in on 281, it bellows right at my house. I mean, some days it'll rattle your windows. And there's all kinds of signs on 281. It's every day.
And how are you gonna determine, is there a decibel level where it qualifies to issue a ticket?
Right.
And if so, who determines that decibel level at any given time?
Good question.
Yep, so, I think it's just a suggestion that we ask people to maybe be a little more courteous or whatever, but short of
People
that.
speed, people, probably, I've heard might be overweight occasionally, so it's,
Roll
I mean,
through
I
stuff.
understand it. I guess if we sit here and talk about it, nobody's, don't take this wrong, but the likelihood of somebody getting ticketed for it, you know, it's like a lot of things, you're making honest people honest, you know, the people that are, you know, actually gonna, so I'm not saying you're not honest, Mike, but that's the kind of thing it is. I mean, I don't always drive 55, you know. Let's feel I'm 65, then I only drive 55. So I haven't been a lot of help here, but it's because I just don't have a strong feeling on it.
So by installing a couple more signs, it's more of a warm and fuzzy and 2 more signs to have to mow around.
Pretty much.
Basically.
Pretty much. I mean, it's not cost prohibitive, signs
Right.
aren't that bad, so, but,
So we did have a request from residents in that area, so we wanted to put it on the agenda to at least discuss. And if no one feels strongly enough that it's gonna be effective in remedying the situation,
I think it's a reasonable reminder to be able to do that, and I don't think it's not a reasonable request, so I'd make the motion that we do approve placing the signs.
okay, we have a motion by Weiss. I'll second it. For sake of discussion,
What sign are we putting up then?
the same as we've got on 13,
How are you gonna enforce that?
Just at the intersection.
same way we enforce the,
Enforce it on the motorcycles then. I mean,
Hey,
that's...
hey, hey.
No, exactly, and that hits the nerve, doesn't it?
No, actually,
Muffled
not.
semis are between 83 and 85 decibels.
Oh.
Unmuffled, which what we're discussing, is 100 to 102 to 105.
Right.
Your motorcycle falls up there, especially when it's straight pipe. Straight
Yeah.
pipe pickups fall up there.
Yep.
They don't fall at 83.
Yeah.
City traffic noise is 85, so
Yeah.
there's no difference between that.
Yeah.
All you require is when Doug goes to pull up to that thing, he has to decide whether he's gonna save his brakes and use his Jake, or he's gonna, and break the law,
Right.
or he's gonna follow the law, and in turn, be taxed again because he wears his brakes off faster.
Well, he knows.
There's a reason that there's Jake brakes on there,
Right.
on all semis.
Yeah.
And there's a reason you can't put one of these signs up in the hills or the mountains. I mean, they are definitely there to help, they're
Right.
not there to hinder.
Yeah.
Now, I don't disagree that when you have, I know straight pipes and stuff are louder, but you get on your Harley and go south on 14 out of that thing and crack her wide open, that's the same noise level you're hearing from those guys with the Jake brake. The only sign you could put up there that you could actually, in my opinion, be fair with, and even then you still have to enforce it with motorcycles, is like the one they have south on 281, where it's no unmuffled dynamic engine braking.
Mm.
Just so you know, it accounts for 2.4 to 5.2% of trucks on the road. This is what you're enforcing on. A very small percentage.
Let me ask you this, you know, we talk about engine braking, dynamic braking,
Yeah.
there's different terms for it. Is there a sign that, some type of sign that says noise reduction area? 'Cause that would fall into more motorcycles, semis, whatever, I mean,
I think so, but I gotta look that up, but I'm pretty sure there is, because it seems like I've seen it by hospitals and,
that would make more sense, that way you're not picking on the trucker with the Jake brake.
Right.
You're not, if you got the biker, I mean, you know, there again, it goes down to enforcement, you can put any dang sign up you want, but if nobody's gonna enforce it, what's the sign for? But I think to be fair to everybody, you
Yeah.
put some kind of a noise reduction sign up.
Yeah.
What has the city and the county done over the last 10 years? We've brought in the B plant roughly in that time, and AGP, two businesses that rely heavily on trucking coming in and out. Then we tell them that we can't go around town, they have to come through 6th Avenue or up on 13 and down on 14 are the two bypasses on that. So then we told them where we have to be, now we're gonna tell them how to operate their business. It's another tax on the trucking industry that either, if it's an owner-operator, I'll say they're gonna probably eat it. But if it's a fleet, like your Walmarts and everything, that gets passed on. So your products and goods become higher price. So if we're doing stuff for the betterment of everybody in the county, I would say that keeping your products at a lower price are more.
One thing I will add is trying to stop a semi on either 13 or 14 and be safe for not only my guys, but also the other traffic and the truckers is almost impossible. It's way too narrow. How do you pull somebody when they're driving a semi and a pup or a double on there and somehow not get hit or hurt or cause another vehicle that's coming on to a one-lane traffic? It's almost impossible to do safely So I'm just throwing that out. My
Right.
guys are not too interested in that type of thing either.
Well, there's signage there, and I think there's a realistic understanding and expectation that it's not necessarily a primary law. I mean, you'd have to remind me, I don't even remember at this point, is seatbelt law primary or secondary?
It's primary now.
Is it now?
It used to be secondary, now
Secondary.
they've moved it to primary.
But I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone being picked up on primary with seatbelt law. Not to change the subject, but I think it's more a suggestion that, you know, if you need to use your jake brake, that's fine. But if you're coming up to that intersection again, plan ahead a little bit, slow down, you know, a half mile earlier coming up to it to try and be courteous. I don't think there's an expectation that somebody's gonna sit there and monitor the decibel level regardless of what you're driving through there. But if you were driving a truck that, you know, that's an option when you come through the next time and the next time and the next time, instead of needing that as, you know, a way to slow down if you're coming to that intersection, plan it a little farther ahead with it, so. No, I know where you're coming from. If you're gonna pass an ordinance, it ought to be something that's enforceable, but I think realistically, this is not something that we're looking to make a primary, huge effort to go out and sit and monitor and start pulling semis over for that, but
In the opinion, what sign is more effective? Noise reduction area, or whatever you wanna call it, compression braking and
Mhm.
stuff, I mean, what would be more effective?
I'm sure someone's done a study to that effect, but who knows?
Yeah, I forgot the pamphlet on my desk though before
I'd leave it to your discretion to
If you
determine
guys wanna
that.
kick her down, I know you don't like that term, you wanna wait till next week, I can research and see if there is something different with the quiet area. It just seems like there is, but,
I'm thinking there is, but I'm not 100% sure.
If you wanna
either.
do
I didn't
that.
Research.
because, you know, I can't answer your question about what it is right now. I'm looking quickly, but we'll see.
Well, I'll withdraw my second if the prime
That's fine.
motion maker wants to withdraw his motion. We can table it until next week for further discussion.
I'll make that substitute motion.
Okay? And I'll second it, so we will table that issue until next week, do a little further research, come back next week and discuss it some more. If that meets with everyone's approval? All right.
We need to vote on that, or just let it
Yeah, we
go?
might as well vote on it. We have a motion and a second to table that issue. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Dirk will bring us a little bit of information next week.
And not to beat a dead horse, but it's a little bit different, but the same thing. The city, I don't know how or why, but they put up signs, and it's mostly enforced that semis on 8th Avenue, for instance, no pups coming through there, because it's essentially residential, so that adds, like you said, with the, you know, additional activity that we have, which we appreciate
Right.
in the area, but that activity's gotta go somewhere, and because 8th Avenue is primarily residents, but still is a throughway, I see semis coming through there very rarely with pups, but once in a while.
Yeah, and, you know, we've checked on a few of them that we've seen, and the city does, for special situations, we'll give them
Exception.
give them a permit or a waiver. But, yeah, for the most part, it's pretty much shut that down there.
Yeah, so trying to find ways for residential areas to coexist with commerce,
Yep.
so, thanks.
All right, thanks, good discussion, everyone, thank you. All right, now, go
Being
ahead.
that Dirk's here, it's not on the agenda, but I had a call from the Elm Valley Community Club.
Okay,
They have a fishing tournament set for the 28th.
okay.
They were wondering if there's any chance to getting some of the roads access open to the lake for the fishing tournament. I don't know, basically, I don't know, I'm not that familiar with these. Brown County 2 and 2A to Bernheim Point, and
Yep.
Brown County 3 and 3A, east and west.
3 and 3A, so.
I don't know if you've
Yeah.
plowed them this year or not, I mean,
We
I'm
plow
just
them for
asking.
what, we plow them for, well, 3A we plow, but, let's see, that other one he's talking about is right there. Get into that one. We usually have it closed north of here, and like 2 miles in over here. I mean, it's kind of a common thing, and we don't, like, go out there before anything happens. We just kind of wait until it gets, because nobody usually goes out there. I would suppose without having the south available this year, But yeah, we can go check it out. Now, if it's a monstrosity thing, we won't be able to, make it a super highway, but we can go look. It would be, 3 right on that corner, down to the section line is one place they go in, at where 3 and 2 come together, and then this one here. And we'll double check this, but we would've already heard about it if 3A wasn't moving.
That was just their request, but I think
When
it's
is it?
like 28th of January.
Okay.
Be a week and a half away.
Yeah, next weekend.
So you'll take a look at that,
Yep.
okay?
We will do it unless there's some weird situation.
Unless they're 15 foot high and it's gonna take 3 days to get through, I
Right.
wouldn't blame you a bit.
Yeah.
See how the blowing goes.
Anything else for Dirk?
And I don't think it has to be anything fancy, I think it's just access is all you're looking for. I mean, it's not like you're gonna make a super highway out of it.
Right. No, we're good at not fancy.
Right up your alley.
Yes.
All right, if there's nothing else for Dirk, we will move along to Gene Lechke, Director of Equalization.
Thanks, Barry.
You bet. You guys
His
have a beautiful
intentions
day.
for 2023 assessment. Morning, Gene.
I sent this around on emails, but if you haven't opened it,
Go that way.
Yep. Looks like assessments are going up.
assessments are going up.
Some of them.
Some of them, every year we have to, submit our intentions to the state, let them know what we plan to do, then send our, preliminary abstract, so they know that we are actually doing it, and assessment plans, so they can kind of go through our audit and see what kind of equalization factor we're gonna get for the upcoming year. So, this is not about the tax bills that are gonna be coming out here in a week or so, this is regarding 2023 assessments, April 2024. Our total value of the county is gonna take a pretty big increase from about 5.1 billion last year to about 5.5 billion in the new assessment coming up. That's an overall increase of just about 8%, 7.65 or 6%. Farmland is gonna take a very minor adjustment, increase of about 0.2% on cropland, about 2.5% or so on rangeland or non-cropland. Overall increase on our ag land is gonna be, about just over 1.1%. So that part's has gotten to a point that's pretty stable. It's, assessed over an 8-year Olympic average. 2023 assessments is based on the 8 years beginning in 2014, ending in 2021 inclusive. So we've gotten through the 2012, 13, 11, 12, 13, the big ag years, and they're getting thrown out of the mix. Our production methodology is, kind of really stabilized here in the last few years, and so the changes are pretty minor. That said, we've also reduced the amount that we're giving crop-rated soils in non-crop instances, because that gap is getting smaller every year. Our crop rating is going up of a smaller increase than our non-crop is. So, where in previous years we've been given about $130 million of reduction for our adjustments from crop to non-crop, we've reduced that reduction, which definitely considered only about 80% on physical characteristics, about 80 million on physical characteristics, about 30 million on soil-specific characteristics. So, for the most part, most of our ag land is going to increase pretty minimally. There's a few that are gonna increase a little more than others. We do have a couple parcels, a couple egg types that had to change this year by a statute. A couple soil types that had to go from crop rated to non-crop rated, a couple of them had to go from non-crop to crop rated based on, what soil category they fit into. Based on statute, there's gonna be a few parcels that are gonna look like you got out of whack a little bit, but that's by a statute that we had to make changes. Ag line's pretty easy. They give us a number, we throw it through the formula, make sure we still like our adjustments, and you know, we're in the 14th year of productivity and kind of gotten to where we are, and just kind of throw the new numbers in, and there we go. Now, that said, looking at the shift that's gonna happen, then, considering productivity is, moving at about 1.1%, and our overall change in the county is moving about 7 to 7.8% or so. That's pretty much telling me that your non-ag is gonna take a pretty big increase this year. Ag value started in, is about 40% of our county's, assessed value, moving at 1%. So the other 7.5% has to come from 60% of the county. So if you've got non-ag property, you're probably gonna be getting a pretty big increase this year. Most of it, you're gonna see double-digit increases in assessment in 23 payable 24. All the way across the board, from small towns, small acreages, lake property, farmhouses, all are gonna take a pretty big increase. It's a little bit of a hard argument this year to make, in that our housing market is kind of leveled off, but in fact, what did happen is last year's market took off so fast in the middle of the year. When we got audited last year, they audited the entire year, you know, in our audit, and really the movement in our market last year happened beginning in about June. And instead of looking at the whole year last year, we should have probably just looked from June on to make adjustments for 22 sales. So at the beginning of 22, when the new sales came in, we are already too low. So we are at a point where, although the market changed about 15% last year and only about 5% this year, we still are gonna have to make about a 10% adjustment on our ag line, or our non-ag property across the board, in order to meet our audit requirement. Pretty cut and dry. If you're non-ag property, you're probably gonna see a 8, 9, 10, 12, 15% increase in your assessed value. And
it doesn't necessarily mean that increase is gonna show up in your taxes in a similar fashion, but it will impact it.
Correct. The assessment doesn't change what every entity gets in tax money. You know, you hear that quite often. You say that, you know, the county needed more taxes, so they raised our assessment. What my office does is doesn't establish what gets taxed or how much tax gets raised. It establishes how the tax is distributed. You know, who pays what portion. In 2010, ag land paid about 28% of our county's tax burden. As those years went through, 2011, 12, 13, the big ag land years, and we were catching up to full productivity, and were able to cap our ag increases by 25% to get full productivity. We got to a point where the ag property was carrying about 47, 48% of our assessed value in 2017 or so. That's when we reach full productivity. Well, we've kind of leveled off, plus the fact we got past 2011, 12, and 13, and yet our non-ag has really hit a strong market the last few years. Somebody that swung back to our ag properties carrying about 37 or 38%. So the swing, the pendulum's coming back.
It's been a long, hard road to get back to where we started from.
In order to get back to where we started from, to get back to probably, right now we're probably sitting where we belong after we get to our early productivity. You know, we probably overcorrected. We were probably way under before. It probably overcorrected for a while, and it's probably come back to where it's going to be. Getting back to ag property, one of the things that I talk about every year, and nothing ever happens, and now anybody doesn't pay attention. We're starting to hear a little bit about it, that cropland is assessed based on commodities, commodity prices, and yield. Non-crop is assessed based on cash rent. Commodity prices, yield, like we said, 2011, 12, 13 were big years, and were a big factor in where assessments went to. Cash rent or non-crop on cash rent is based on, rental property. As ag assessments go up and taxes go up, cash rent asks or requests go up. If those requests go up, that makes the taxes go up, that makes the cash rent requests go up, or the asking price. So you have a cycle where rising assessments create rising taxes, create rising requests for rent, creates rising rent, creates rising assessments, create rising taxes. So instead of assessments kind of following the trend of the market or the productivity, sometimes they maybe cause it. And I think that's still an issue that's still trying to be resolved. We're finally getting a little discussion at the state level as far as
Well, because of the totals where they're at, this is a significant percentage of what's factored in for cash rent for non-crop is its property tax value, and so if that increases significantly, it has an effect on what that negotiation is gonna be, and that's the point that you've made, that
correct.
that's
And that's been the issue all along. Crop-rated soils, there's a 30% landlord share, and non-crop is cash rent, there's 100% is considered going to be landlord share. So there's never, in real appraisal language, property taxes are part of the cap rate and not an expense. So the fact that the cap rate can't change, it's at 6.6% of statute, there's nothing in place to adjust for how much property tax changes from year to year to offset what's being asked for cash rent. So if there's a way to either make that an expense or allow that to be an expense or change the landlord share somehow, and even with that, if you just change the landlord share to 80% instead of 100%, you still don't have a way to make that fluctuate as far as what the property taxes come into. So that's not really a cure-all either. It would be a temporary fix, but...
Well, that's sitting on the task force for ag land valuation. That's one of the can of worms that I tried to open up this last summer, but didn't get done because of the staffing, is taking a solid look at the cap rate, because as you just mentioned, it's set in statute for no good reason other than it was a number that got them where they needed to go 14 years ago. And so that's something that next summer I intend to have some serious conversations about looking at that cap rate and how that impacts this very subject.
And it needs to. And as long as I've been doing this, I've been talking about assessments go up because assessments go up on non-crop rated soil. And that's just plain wrong, but right now, that's how it is. Other than that, the state was going to set up, or was gonna send everybody the new soil survey or new soil survey to use. Pretty much everybody that worked on that to begin with is gone. The Department of Revenue, the new folks there are pretty unfamiliar with what the project was. It was kind of tabled for a year, and now we're at a point it's kind of probably just off the table. In 2007 or 8, somewhere around there, Department of Revenue did establish a new soil table for Brown County. It was never used because the new one for the productivity model being done at South Dakota State was being put in place.
The dynamic one.
Yep, and that is available for us to use. We got a chance to look at it last year, finally in 2022, finally in about October. So it was not nearly in time to put it in play for 2023. Want to take a look at it least this summer to see if it's something we want to do for 2024. It would be a case where it's sort of a painful process because you're starting all over again with all the adjustments or things you'd want to make. We got over 1,400 parcels being adjusted right now out that are approved by our township boards, by the Department of Revenue, by all, however, that have become established and just kind of are the way they are. So if it looks like it solves a lot of problems, I'd be interested in putting it in. If it looks like it's just starting over and putting us back to 2010 and going through that whole thing again, that was ugly. And not sure I want to start over there too. So it'd be, this summer as we get to looking at this, one of the projects we have is to whether we want to take a look at the new soil survey, kind of put it in play. I have it in hand. We have it in the text file in our tax system. So I haven't really had a chance to look at it, but there again, if we have to use it, we would, or if we choose to use it, we'd certainly send it out to the townships first to look at, like we were going to with the new one anyway. Hate to just throw it out there like we did back in 2010 and say, here's a deal, and make it work.
Well, in theory, the newer table would take into account things that have been adjusted and put it into the base. So you'd wind up with essentially the same assessments, but without as many adjustments because they're built into the base because those circumstances have changed and been taken into account.
Yep.
There will be exceptions to that, but you want to be able to verify it. And fortunately, we're in a position where it's relatively easy for you to be able to measure that.
We have, since 2010, we've done a lot of stuff to our soil program within our tax system to make easy adjustments or make adjustments on the fly. One thing, our current soil table was done in 1988, before it was wet anywhere. We had starting about mid-90s, for about 20 years, we had the northeast part of the county underwater, and,
It's permanently changed some things.
it's permanently changed some things.
Pretty permanent.
Or it might take 20 years to bring it back to what it was
Right.
30 years ago.
Keep going.
So, that's where a lot of our adjustments are taking place where it's been wet or things like that have some, what look to be permanent obstacles or, that kind of thing. But we'll see. That's going to be one of our projects we're going to look at this summer, as to whether we even want to try to implement a new soil table or not. There it is. We've got it in hand. We don't have any timeline where, like in the original one, where we had to do it on a certain year, where we, if we choose to do it, we can do it over 2 or 3 years or whatever. We got to consider our own timetable. But in the end, that's kind of the synopsis of what the deal is. Eggland's not moving much. Non-eggland, non-egg property, houses, lake property, small acreages. if you're not getting a 10% increase, you are one of the lucky ones.
Doug, do you have a question?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah.
The markets and the formula are doing what they're intended to do. It's just taking a while to get there, and it's pretty painful for some.
All right. Any questions of Gene? Good information, a lot of information, but another good assessment plan. We'll see how it all works when it's put in place.
All right.
We'll see at equalization.
And again, you know, I thought last year you'd see a bunch of appeals. Tax bills will be coming out here in a week or two. That'll probably, prod a lot of people to appeal another 10% increase next year, so we'll see how this goes.
Right.
Assessment notices are to be out by the 1st of March, so there's instructions on the back how to appeal property. If there's an issue with, have questions about your new assessment, our office is always there to help. We'll always come out and take a look at your property, see if there's something we can defend or not defend, or we'll always listen to you. A lot of times you come in and talk to me and you guys, you know, the property owner's right. You know, there's a lot of properties we haven't been to in half a dozen, 8, 10, 12 years, and kind of looking just at market trends and things like that. And sometimes there's properties out there that don't keep up with the trends, and we're certainly willing to ask and answer any questions, take a look at any property anybody wants us to take a look at, and go from there.
Sounds good. All right.
Thanks, Gene.
You bet.
Thanks a lot, Gene. All right, that brings us to the end of our scheduled items. Moving on to the consent calendar.
Do we need to recognize that? I'm sorry. Or not? It's being presented.
I think we normally do.
I would entertain a motion to acknowledge the 2023 assessment plan.
So moved.
Motion by Weiss, second by Feldheim. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Alright. Approval of amended reorganization minutes of January 3rd.
Move.
Motion by Feldheim,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Approval of general meeting minutes of January 10th.
Move.
Motion by Dennert,
Second.
second by Feldheim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims and payroll.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR reports.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Feldheim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Auditor's report of accounts.
Move.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Register of deeds surplus request.
Move.
Motion by Gage,
Second.
second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Abatements.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Feldheim. There were a bunch. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Set hearing date for liquor license transfers.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Denner, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Fair board appointments.
Move.
Motion by Gage,
Second.
second by Feldheim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Sheriff office uniform clothing allowance.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
GIS plotters.
As far as purchasing.
Yes.
No, on that.
Motion by Gage,
Second.
second by Feldheim. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Is there proposals, or,
Yeah, it was in the packet.
It was the two that you were looking at,
Oh, okay.
SHI.
okay,
Do you want
Did you
to
wanna
purchase
review 'em?
a new one for his
Okay.
office, then leave the one he's got for emergency management?
okay.
He was gonna send a letter, but I didn't get that from him, so,
It's just a proposal and then the purchase price and so on.
yeah.
Okay, any other business come before the Brown County Commission this morning? We've had a request to go into executive session for security and for personnel.
Before you do that, quick, just to acknowledge, I got a text message this morning from a representative from Aberdeen Rural Fire who appreciates the lights that were put in by the landfill for the dumpster sites.
Oh,
Lights up the whole area, so they just, let us know that we appreciate that, they appreciated that.
very good. Slowly making progress on that dumpster site.
Yeah, so, sorry.
No problem.
I'll move the executive session.
Okay, we have a motion by Weiss, second by Gage to go into executive session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are in exec. All right, we're back in session, out of exec, with no action as a result. Is there anything else to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Dennert,
Second.
second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We